Welcome back to the Speed Tour, here from NOLA Motorsports Park. As you can see, New Orleans in the background on a hazy but nice day here in the Big Easy, and getting ready for our next race, which comes from SVRA. And that, of course, will be vintage racing, and it comes from Formula Vee. As you can see, the wind picking up slightly. We had some rain in the area earlier in the weekend, but I'm glad it's not here at the moment, and that means that we should get a good full run at our Formula Vees. These are effectively single-seaters from yesteryear, and Formula Vee, in fact, has been one of the most popular classes. In fact, that's a bit of a ringer, that car, that number 21, because it's not a Formula Vee per se. In fact, it's a Honda F4, but he's doing some testing, doing some practicing to get out there and join them. So they've thrown him in this category, and away he goes. But here is your regular 1-1-3. That's a typical Formula Vee. And that is the Kellison of Baron Hunter in a 1969 March 1. So these are all period cars from the mid-60s, early 70s. And Formula Vee being exactly what you think it would be, an engine from a Volkswagen Beetle. In fact, a lot of stock parts from the Volkswagen Beetle pre-63. As we take a look at the number 15 coming up next. Getting a thumbs up to our good man, Antonio Garcia. And the cows waiting in the background. Well, we've got horsepower, cow power, we've got it all here. And this is what it looks like from high above. Huge bridge back in the background there to get back into town across the Mississippi. And so we're about 25 minutes just outside of the city of New Orleans. And there's the Caldwell D13 of John Williamson in the all green. And next to him, the 102, the Zinc FV in blue and white. All of them 1200cc Volkswagen Beetle engines. And that's Diana Dickman. She's the female competitors in this group. Up next, it's the number 32. The Autodynamics FV of Cassandra Baron Fuller. Up next, the 66. Good looking car. And away. Thank you, sir. So we've got about 20 cars in this, and you just saw the two female competitors that we've got. There's also Ross Maddox, Stephen Hild, Scott Eliff, and various different makes of Formula V's from the various different years. And there's no question that this is pure and utter fun. No question about it. Good cars, built to last, road tires, relatively inexpensive, but with the odd GoPro on top of the roll bar just to make sure that you catch all the fun. That's the 85, the Autodynamics of Madison Knox. And then the 659 of the Zinc Formula Vee C4 of Robert Phillips. And the cars are, as you can see, just in the middle of your shot there. And on there, what we call a pre-grid. That's a nice setup. Got your cooler, got your camera, got a bit of shade. Ready to go. You can see how simple the suspension is back in the day. As we look at the 141, that's a 1969 in red and white. Donald Rajasingham at the wheel. And then the 401, the Formula Vee of Ken Milvid. Sitting quite upright, but just about underneath that roll bar. Tall fellow. And as I mentioned, the Speed Tour continuing to go across the United States this year. Tony Perella and his Perella Holdings group, who run SVRA, Trans Am TA and TA2. Talking of which, there he is. Tony Pirelli always does this. This is his kind of thing to do. There's a little tap and a little handshake and a fist bump to the drivers. And it's a nice touch from the man who's got some 400 cars at some weekends to go around and just wish everybody luck and make sure that he knows that he's got your back, he's watching. But I mentioned SVRA will Trans Am as well, but also this weekend the introduction for the first time in 2023 of Formula 4, the sort of first step on the ladder to either IndyCar or Formula 1, the FIA, Formula 4, and the FR Series, Formula Regional Series, which may be more familiar as Formula 3, but now in the new iteration, the new era, it is Formula Regional, and it's pretty much an atypical Formula 3 spec car, as you see in the W Series and FIA F3, and this, the American version, the FR Americas Series, kicking off this weekend. A lot of graduates from F4 moving up to FR. We'll see them in action later today. Back in the day, of course, Formula V would have been the way into Formula 3 and onto Formula 2 and Formula 1. So these cars that you're watching now are very similar to what effectively became the Formula 4 of today's era. And that's why you perhaps saw one car there that I think is doing a little bit of testing as a potential entry into the Formula 4 Championship either later this year or potentially next season. Maybe he'll be driving it. He's ready to go. He's got his hat on, got his gear on. There's that Formula 4 car I talked about. And that is an all-modern spec Ligier Honda Formula 4. The Honda Civic engine powering that and a turbo version of it in the Formula Regional Championship. Neat little car. And came out a few years ago, and it has put together some great champions over the years, from Dakota Dickerson to Carl Kirkwood now in IndyCar, and the likes of Hunter Yaney now in FIA F3. And like I said, a lot of them graduating into our current FR. But this is our first SVRA race of the weekend. Perfect conditions. So they start filing out now of the pre-grid and onto the track for their start. And just to reiterate, cars from the mid-60s, late 60s, and early 70s is what we've got on display. I think the earliest car we've got out there is a 63, a Volkswagen Formula Vee from 1963. That's the 401 of Ken Milvid. That's the car popping out there in the all-silver. And then the most modern car is that Formula 4, of course, but most modern Formula V car is probably from, what, 1972? Yes, 1972. We've got a couple of, we've got a Pegasus and we've got a Truhaft FV with Bill Griffiths at the wheel, the number 99. So, good field of over 20 cars getting out here for their first run, and they will get 2 feature runs for the weekend. The one thing that people, I've not raced at NOLA before, first time I've been here. Trans Am has been here a few years ago. But all that I've been told is that it's a tricky circuit in terms of it is one of those places that's constantly turning. It's bumpy, but that almost adds to it. We've just come from Sebring. Nobody complains about the bumps there, and adds a little bit of character. It's flat as a surface from above. You can see that. So there's no undulations to get too excited about, but the track itself technically is very demanding. As you can see, it kind of like meanders through several large hairpins. We've just seen 2 of them above from here, and then there's these very fast right-hand kicks. There's the first of them, and then there's the second one coming up now, and that takes us to the back of the circuit. Your rolling start. Behind the safety car, and the safety car will pull off and allow us to go racing. We're in Avondale in Louisiana, about 20 minutes from downtown New Orleans. And this is an FIA Grade 2 course. There's also a fully lit outdoor karting tracks. They've had SCUSA here in the past. So with skid pad and drifting, autocross, you name it. Pretty interesting facility, and run by Aaron Grosfos and David Pace. Friends of mine from COTA in the past, now here, and looking to bring NOLA back to its former glory. And certainly doing a heck of a job so far. Just looking at the lap records here, US 2000 is probably the most relevant to this group we're looking at. They were doing 136.6s. IndyCar came here. Scott Dixon doing a 128.5 and the 2015 Indy Grand Prix of Louisiana. And ironically, Scott Dixon started in Formula Vee in his home of New Zealand, Formula First, as it's known there. And in fact, I was doing some commentary on some Formula Firsts just a few weeks ago. There's the VW logo on the side there. Got a feeling we're going to go around one more time with the safety car, because he's not pulling away, or is he? Well, we're about to find out. He's gone. So then, here we go. We're about to go racing. This, the 2023 NOLA Speed Tour Formula Vee in action. Don't worry about the man leading the race. He is in a very different car. He's testing for Formula 4 in that number 21 Honda. But the rest are Volkswagens as they celebrate multiple years of great racing throughout the world, not just here in the United States, all over the world. Of course, where they came from in Germany, great racing in the UK and in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, as I mentioned, where it's called Formula First, and here in the States. And joining me in the booth, the one and only Ben Sissel. Fresh from the track. What's happening out there?
Well, I got to split cars for the first time, so add that to my resume. But this is going to be the best race of the weekend. I love the Formula V's. Elliott Barron and his whole group out here. You can see Hunter Barron out there in front with Elliott right behind, sporting that SVRA National Championship helmet. That blue car you just saw may be one of my favorites there, that 103 of John Williamson. Just such a pretty car. But this car here is the one that's really going to give the battle, Daniel Person to the Barons up there, I think, this black car.
Yeah, I was just explaining the F4 that was on track is obviously a regular state-of-the-art F4, and I guess he's just doing a bit of testing. I'm not sure who it is.
I think she's only 13, so not old enough to be kind of like Wisniewski did last year with us.
Right.
And he did such a great job. He's running an F4 this year, so she's doing the same thing. And so far, talking to the Formula, Ava Dobson, talking to the Formula V drivers, they said that she's given them all the room that they need and a really good driver. So that speaks really well, because a lot of the drivers in this field have 30, 40 years of racing experience. Great shots from the drone. This is the first images I've seen, John. Look at that number 103 there. Beautiful car. John Williamson, Caldwell D13. I personally just kind of like the Caldwells.
Yeah, so a bit like Formula Ford, you've got so many different types or makes and models of these Formula V's, all with the same engine and many of the VW stock parts, but that's the point. It's affordable racing, even back then in the 60s.
Now look at this long straightaway. Drafting is definitely a factor here. Elliott gets right behind his son Hunter as they come into Big Machine Vodka Spike Coolers turn 1. And I misspoke, that 102 is Diana Dickman with that Zinc FV. That's a beautiful car. Just getting passed there by the number 66 of Bill Griffith as they come into Big Machine Vodka Spike Coolers. And then there's that Caldwell.
Yeah, that is a good-looking car. Nice paint job, isn't it? 1970, that.
So we are celebrating 60 years of one of the coolest classes ever created in racing, Formula Vee. Basically, you could go to a junkyard, buy a Beetle, and use the parts and make a race car. And it was, for maybe $2,500 to $3,500, you got a brand new race car 60 years ago. And then there's the Lynx, real famous, real fast cars there, that white and red. Number 141 of Donald, I'm not going to be able to say her last name, in the VW Lynx Formula Vee. You can try that as well.
Where am I looking?
141.
Oh, yes. You mean, I know who you mean. You mean Miss Raja Singham.
Ooh, that's awesome. Look at that shot there.
By the way,
Beautiful.
whoa, and onto the grass and dirt for a moment goes the 102. Currently in 6th place, that's Dickman. She did a little bit of off-grassing there, off-tracking.
We appreciate the stunt driving from the front. They knew they were on camera as a hawk flies by right there. Beautiful images here, and you can see it is group racing, like in all vintage racing. Sometimes it's the mid-pack racing that's the best, and they're going to want to get right behind each other. Now this should be single file going into these S's around that bell helmet's turn. And 2 cars equally yoked here, the 103 and 102, followed by that Lynx. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Dobson out front, testing that F4 car. She's going good, and she's way up the road from the 2 Barons. Hill, Person, Dickman, Griffith, Williamson, Rajasingham in 9th position, and then Baron Fuller. We were talking about the history, 60 years. I mentioned Scott Dixon at the start of this for the simple reason that he started off in Formula Vee back in New Zealand and has the lap record in Indy here from 2015. But when you look at the likes of sort of Emerson Fittipaldi, Niki Lauda, Nelson Piquet, Keke Rosberg, all started in this form of Formula Vee racing. So, this is where it all begins. You want to find a superstar, this is where to find them.
I can tell you why, too. They're very difficult to drive. It's really hard to drive a slow car fast. Yeah, I mean no disrespect to that. Elliott Barron, who we just showing right there, would agree with me. And if you get somebody like Hunter Barron, who is fast in a Formula Vee, and put him in almost everything else, they're going to be fast. We could put him in one of these TA cars, and he's going to be fast right away because he now knows how to drive any car with momentum, and that is a tough skill to learn. There's one of my favorite liveries. This is number 49, beautiful car. Stephen Hild in RCA Formula Vee. I think that stands for Race Car Associates, not the RCA Victor Company.
Good point.
But you can see that VW right there in the back, and that little cage, those 2 vertical bars that come down, is to keep you from hitting the shifting linkage, because back in the day, you could get up right behind a car and knock them out of gear and pass them.
Ah, okay. Good knowledge. Like to know.
I love this class. This is such a fun class. Big group racing. And then the cool thing about this, the camaraderie just in this class that the Barons and Big Hammer Racing have developed with the SVRA group out of Texas. And they have their own trophy. They had a trophy ceremony last year for the Formula Vee Trophies championship that they run. And then this race is one of the first of the season here, I believe. And they run with us. They run with SVRA. They run with a bunch of different groups. It's like a championship within a championship.
Yeah.
And there's that 103, John Williamson. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Jonathan Green. Pick a favorite.
I'm looking at it. The 103, I'm afraid I'm with you. I like the colors. I like the way I like the tub, the way it's designed. I love it. The other one is the all-silver 401, is it?
Uh-oh. I'm hearing some tire squeals.
No.
The
102.
There we go.
Oh, no, a spinner.
Yeah.
At turn 1.
Great avoidance there by that driver. I can't find the number as they come around Mission Foods turn 15. And look at this. Oh, no, Diana's coming into the pits.
Yeah.
Now, their second race today is their coup de grace, as Elliott Barron said. But look at this now. They're going to come down. There's that number 49, Stephen Hild. That you got to look at this car up close. Very beautiful car. And then look at how that Caldwell just kind of cuts through the air there. It's got a little bit of a frog stature to it.
Yeah, you really see the suspension as well when you've got such a long straight like this. See how steady it is. It's really nice to see that. Right behind him, though, Griffiths really putting the pressure on, is bouncing over the turn 1. Now you see why it's a bit of a challenge, that turn 1, because Rajasingham really struggling there over the bumps, and there are a couple of places here at NOLA that can really shake your teeth at.
That is true, yeah. And, man, this is so much fun. If you're watching, joining us on YouTube, please leave some comments. Where are you watching from? We're monitoring that. Which one is your favorite car? Tell us who you're rooting for. But right now, Hunter Barron, who just has been really good in the SCCA runoffs and really one of our fantastic drivers. I'd love to see him in a TA2 car. I think he'd do really well, but keeping his dad behind him. They usually race with us on Father's Day, and they came in like Scott Goodyear and Al Unser Jr. one year at Indy, just side by side. It was really fun to watch.
So you've been watching the 659 of Robert Phillips in the Zig Formula Vee C4. Here's the 85 coming into shot for the first time. I think that's the first time we've seen him. That's the Auto Dynamics Madison Knox, excuse me.
So there's a Kellison, an RCA, a Pegasus, a Lynx, a Caldwell, a Zinc, an Auto Dynamics, a Warrior. You know, how cool is it? Because basically it was kind of like some chassis designers would put the front and the rear ends together and then make some kind of a fiberglass mold, and that was their car. And like Caldwell was a full-on production unit of these, and some people, they made one or two out of their garage.
You know, and I was reading up the price point. I mean, if you wanted to buy a brand new Formula V, it would still only cost you about $35,000 US. But a second-hand one that's been used and is still in good nick could be less than $1,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah, you can still find these out there. I got to tell you, it's one of the most fun groups to run with. My son, who's here with me this weekend, was asking me what he should race, and I said Formula V for sure because of the training ground. Now, this is probably the oldest car in the field. That's Ken Nolbit. That is a, let me see.
Yeah, 1963, I think.
63, yeah. It just looks like that body type of the first ones, the body types were a lot bigger like that. And then here you see Ava Dobson in the background. This is basically the history of open wheel racing. This Formula 4 has kind of taken over Formula V as the training ground for open wheel racers. So there, right there, is like the genesis of training ground for open wheel racing. And I got to give it up for Ava Dobson. She's doing a great job. Very proud of her, and love the development that Scott Goodyear and the team at Formula 4 put into these drivers and the importance that they put into it. And we're seeing it now with some fantastic drivers coming through.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether Brent Cruz might throw his hand at this because he's not quite old enough either. So maybe he'll get in that
Isn't it funny
seater.
that he's old enough to run a season and almost a championship in TA2, but not yet for Formula 4?
And he is our younger. He's our Rookie of the Year last year.
Now, that was a good corner, Ava. You could see that was a 180 turn, and she held her hand in one place and made the whole corner. So she's becoming a very smooth driver, which is speaks very highly for her and her team.
Yeah, and like you say, it is apropos in some ways that we've got that car out there because these 60s cars that you're looking at are what this car, the F4 that we're looking at, also the Honda state-of-the-art car, you know, if you like, single-seater version out of karts that you would go to. And Formula V is still very much that today.
Now, back in the 60s and 70s, you could go to any junkyard and take your pick of 30 or 40 Volkswagen Beetles.
Yeah.
You know, but now it's even tough to find those. So these Formula V drivers are starting to have some trouble finding some of these parts in the engines and having to get the engines rehomed. But look at this thing moving around, just jumping around.
Cute little thing, isn't it?
Suspensions, yeah. These are torsion suspensions.
Like you say, 1963 Formula V.
So that's 60 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to my math, if it's 2023,
yep,
we've got 60 years out there. It took me that long to do that math, ladies and gentlemen.
That's all right. Here we go with a 1965. Let's see how your maths are this time. And Auto Dynamics is the model, Formula V.
That's under 60 years. That's
the
math I'm going to give you. But look at the upright on him. These cars, the drivers sit so different. Hunter Barron's like laid back and like a lazy boy, almost a flat line.
Yeah.
There's a car that Mike Jackson races with us, a Shadow Fax, I believe it's called, and his left and right feet are sideways hitting the pedals because they wanted it to be as low slung as they could get. Real famous Formula V car. But look as they come into Mission Foods Turn 1. And Jonathan, talk to the crowd a little bit about these bumps coming in and how that could really disrupt the vehicle.
Well, you'll watch as they come into this right-hander here at Turn 1. There's a bump in the middle of the corner. Here we go. Now watch. See how they come in there just on the approach there and then through the middle as well. And if you turn in there and you're not steady, easy to get the back end out. See that happen, and I think that's probably the reason we saw that turnaround a moment ago. But it's a tricky circuit, but people do like racing here, that's for sure.
That's Amelia Phillips there. I got a good story. I just split the cars for the first time, and she came right at me and scared me a little bit, but I deserved it because I put her in the wrong grid positions this morning. So, Amelia, sorry about that. beautiful car in that number 10, and she is in an Autodynamics MK4 Formula Vee. There's the 19, John Carter, zinc.
Yep. With the VW logo on the back.
Beautiful helmet with the racing stripe as well. So if you're in the New Orleans area, come out to the NOLA Speed Tour here. So excited to be here at NOLA. You can see it's a beautiful racing circuit, kind of in the Bayou, Jefferson Parish of New Orleans. We've got a crawfish boil. We've got Trans Am, Radical, Formula 4, FR, and Formula Vee 60 years.
Got some autograph signings as well from the youngsters later in the afternoon. We've got a car show. And it's a really easy trip outside of New Orleans, about 15, 20 minutes on a good run.
So, Elliott Barron has dropped off. We didn't see him. He must have come into the pits. But we've got Hunter Barron still out there. Elliott Barron, he takes care of like 8 cars while he's here. So he never gets time to work on his own car, sadly. So we'll see what happens. But maybe he's just saving himself for what he calls the coup de grace, today's second race. And there's Ava Dobson, our leader. Coming up on, she's going to lap our leader in Formula Vee, Hunter Barron. Hunter Barron, one of the most aware drivers I've seen, looking at his mirrors. Let's Ava go.
Pushing on, she's doing good.
She
really
is
good.
Really well.
The point is, there's no drama there. It's just nice and smooth. You can hear the input to the throttle. That's how it's, that's what you want to hear. She's not trying to change the world. She's not setting lap records, just going about her business, and that's all you can ask. I once asked the team manager, what do you look for in a driver? And he said, somebody doesn't crash it. Yeah. He said, we'll test somebody that, we'll take people out who bring the equipment back.
Yeah, exactly. And seat time. Everybody will tell you the most important thing is just seat time. So she's out there getting her seat time, and it's really going to come in handy when she's old enough to race in Formula 4. And there's Hunter Barron. Look at this car. This is a beautiful car, one of my favorites. That is a Kellison Mach 1. Really cool lines. You see the little bulges there and the shock inputs that just looks fast. Oh, we have a car off there. Hope that car is in a safe place. Here comes the checkered flag. Give it away, Jonathan.
Yeah, well done to Dobson, taking her first win in SVRA, but of course really here at NOLA to test for F4. Not old enough yet, but already showing good signs that she will be on the grid, as are several women this weekend. And looking forward to seeing her race in the coming years. Barron takes second, but the first of the Formula V's. And the other Barron going out, and that gave Hild in the 49 a chance to get on the podium. Williamson, fifth.
I got to give a shout out, though, because one of Hunter Barron's mechanics, Frankie, first time to NOLA. It's his birthday today.
Hey!
So, Frankie, happy birthday. Hunter Barron's giving you a thumbs up as he comes through Big Machine Vodka Spike Cooler. So, Frankie, happy birthday, buddy. Cool shots, isn't it, Jonathan?
I love it. So that concludes our Formula Vee race to get us underway for our coverage of SVRA this weekend. All part of the Speed Tour. We've got F4, FR, and of course the feature race of Trans Am. My thanks to Ben Sissel. We'll take a short break here from NOLA. We'll be right back. Stay with us. More action to come.
Hawk Performance packs 100